Sagittarius Sun and Rising. Welcome to your March 2023 Astro Update. It's Rena here. Well, March is the month you may have heard some buzz about, and I certainly have been keeping it on my radar and anticipating it for many months now. And this is because we have a great shift in the energy. We have Saturn going into Pisces for the first time in about 30 years, and we have Pluto going into Aquarius for the first time since 200 plus years. So suffice it to say, that is major. And Pluto is a generational planet, and actually, um, I thought it was always 15 years. Pluto is going to be in Aquarius for 20 years, so that is wild. And Aquarius is the sign of the collective. It's the humanitarian house in astrology, the 11th house. And the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was during the French Revolution, the American Revolution. Revolution, the collective, getting fed up. So see any parallels, to that today? Do you think that that's right on time or what? So I think that this is going to be marvelous. I heard another astrologer a while ago talking about Pluto in Earth in Capricorn being very heavy. And I assume it's because of that 3D density, And Aquarius is an air sign, so it has more of a I was going to say ethereal, but that doesn't sound right. But it's not kind of like tied to the ground. It's intangible. So I think that since Pluto is already a heavy planet in what it represents in some, respects, that this is going to be, you're going to feel a sense of relief. And by the way, I am a sun in Sag myself, so I always enjoy doing the tarot and astrology readings for Sag because I can see what's going to happen and look at it from my perspective too. So we have, as we begin the month, the sun is in Pisces. As some of you may know, Pisces squares off Sag. Now, I personally have always enjoyed the month of March. Not to say it has always been necessarily an easy month. I think, but I always look forward to March. Maybe because I live in the Midwest where the winters, can be pretty rough sometimes, and this heralds the spring. But I think it's more than that. I don't know. There's something about March I find very magical. And so because it is squaring off to you, it's an angular house that it's coming from, which is a fourth house of home and family. So, this is a water house. This is the house that Cancer rules. So some Sagittarius may feel more emotional than usual. You may be thinking more of the past than usual or dealing with your family of origin more than usual. Now, these are things that are happening every year. Having, like having a new moon. Actually, the new moon in Pisces was in February this year, or is going to happen because I'm recording that before the new moon, which is on February 20th. But in any case, the point is, whether it's late February or during the first few weeks in March, you may notice that you tend to have certain themes emerge in your life that have to do with the past, or family or home matters. So that's another area that can come up for you. Now, on the 2nd, Mercury goes into this area. So Mercury is actually joining the sun here and Neptune. Neptune is in the 4th house and has been for years. It's been hanging out here for 10 years, since 2012. So Neptune in the fourth can be this uh, influence where I mean, because I'm thinking about my own case, but Neptune can be fantasy and the fourth house can be your childhood. But I think it can actually dispel the myth of your childhood during some time during this transit, because it's just about the theme of the myth of childhood. And, what does that entail? If somebody is born during this period, and some of you who are older, you just happen to have Neptune in your fourth house. But if somebody's, who has this in their natal chart, who's born between 2012 and 2027 or whenever the transit is, they're going to have that in their natal chart. And that can mean that they are born into a family where there's a lot of disorder, there's a lot of deception, in some cases addiction, skeletons in the closet. So some of these things can come out during this time, and it can be good, especially when Neptune goes retrograde in the fourth house. So this is something that you have been dealing with, and then on the 2nd of the month, Mercury goes into this area. So it can really speak to the fourth house can be the mother. Some people say the father. I mean, you decide. We could just say family of origin issues. Maybe communicating with them more than usual. Some kind of contract. You're signing a mortgage. Whatever. Receiving news about your mother or about property. On the 7th, full moon at 16 degrees of Virgo. And Saturn goes into Pisces. Okay, well, for Sag, these are the areas of, with Pisces, home and family, and with Virgo, career matters. Now, at the time of any full moon, the sun is in opposition at the same degree in the opposite sign, opposite house. So the sun, at the time of that full moon, the sun is at 16 degrees of Pisces, in the fourth house of home and family. And so this is really something that can be positive, that is coming into play. Saturn into Pisces, Saturn's going into that fourth house on that date. Okay, now whatever your chart is, that's going to be when it goes in there. So when that happens, you may have more responsibility with family. And that can run the gamut of what that means. It could be anything from you have to do their shopping, or you're going to take care of them full time, or you're just responsible for their money, whatever. That's only one possibility. Some Sagittarius could own property during the next few years. And by the way, some Sagittarius might be on the older side and they have never had property. Maybe they associated a mortgage with a feeling tied down, and now you can see the value of it for whatever reason and you want to do that. So that could happen as well. I go into more detail about these outer planet transits in a separate video. I'm going to be linking them. Maybe you won't see it there when you check, but I will do so in the near future. And the full moon in the 10th house can bring recognition. Maybe you hit a new milestone in your career in some way. You can gain attention from others. If you're in the spotlight. For instance, you're in some kind of entertainment field, including the internet. You could get some kind of more um, eyeballs on you. And just in your particular field, you might get some kind of recognition. On the 16th, Venus goes into Taurus. So this is good for everyone because it's Venus rules Taurus and it's the money sector. For Sag, this is another Earth house that Taurus is for Sag, which is the 6th house. This is Virgo's domain. So this is the house of the service that you offer to others, otherwise known as work. It can be your health or health-related matters. It can be your daily routine. So some ways this can play out. You can choose to create a routine, a daily routine that is very mellow or laid back. Venus is very languid and is not a planet like Mars, its counterpart, which is very aggressive and kind of ambitious. Venus is it's the divine feminine, which is receptive, and I was listening to somebody talk about manifestation, a woman, and she was saying, I've been so much in my masculine, but I really gain so much. And I think she was even talking about manifesting abundance in her feminine energy, in the feminine, because the divine feminine is about receiving, and that is part of the law of attraction. Some people do think that it's just about receiving, and I think that is a big, big mistake. I mean, I think you do have to exert action or energy into something, but you also have to allow it. There's the art of allowing, and that means that you're not just pushing, pushing, pushing all the time. So this could be reflected in a routine that you create for yourself. Now, is it going to be forever? Maybe not, but it's just something that you're giving to yourself as a gift so that you can have, like, maybe you're sleeping longer, maybe you're having big chunks of time during your day that you choose to do passive activities. Now, obviously, I know some of you work outside of the home and you don't have that kind of ability to order your schedule that way. So for those types of people who are really like doing a 9 to 5 type of a deal, or even a 12 to 8 p.m. Schedule, you can still do these things. As a matter of fact, you may benefit from them even more so if you don't have the ability to carve out large amounts of time. You may choose to get up earlier and just or even like when you go to bed, like do yin yoga or restorative yoga, something that kind of is a great way to end the day. Or I would say like regular yoga is very receptive too, very Venus like. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to, do this hardcore workout. It's more of a feminine energy. So yeah. Also, you could get a raise. That could be what is going on with Venus in the 6th house. You could be embarking upon some kind of health regimen, and part of your goal is to look better. But even I think feeling better, I would associate with Venus, because it's like the comfort within your own body. And it's in an earth sign, so that just enhances that. But I always call this the Vitamix transit, where you're buying like a high-end health type of appliance or what have you, or maybe a really nice gym membership if that's your thing. because Venus can be like luxury items. And the sixth house, it might have some kind of health theme to it. So that's why I said Vitamix. Okay. On the same day, Mars comes out of its shadow in the sign of Gemini. So for Sag, this is our opposite sign, okay? And the opposite house is the seventh house of committed partnership. So Mars is this, this is important too, because this is where, like, for instance, my son is in Sag, and I don't really see that Mars has affected my seventh house in that way. I mean, it doesn't really. And no, you know what? I take that back. I can think of some ways, because a lot of times when I see Mars in the seventh house, I immediately think of conflict. But it doesn't have to be. It might be that you are doing more things with your partner than you have in a while. If both of you were kind of had schedules where you couldn't really do fun things together, maybe starting when Mars went into Gemini, you were doing stuff together. And so but then it went retrograde, and it might have kind of stopped. But for some of you, you might have been getting a divorce, and you might have had, definite conflict. And even in those cases, that's not really that big of a deal, because if you're getting divorced, it sounds like you were incompatible, and not being with somebody that you're not compatible with doesn't sound like the worst thing in the world. So Mars is going to now be moving forward totally. And so for this leg of the green light portal, which lasts until, some would say, April 7th, because then Mercury goes into its shadow period, I will say the 21st of April rather than the 7th, because I don't want to, talk about too much time that Mercury is affecting things. To me, that's too extreme. But even then, that's going to be about a month long, a little bit more like 5 weeks, where you're going to see all the planets direct. Yes, Mercury is going to go into its shadow period on April 7th. Okay, let's put it like this. You'll see 3 weeks where there will be no shadow periods and no retrogrades for any of the planets. Okay, so that could be a very powerful 3 weeks. If you have things to do, that might be a time when you can get done so much more than you even thought you could. On the 19th, Mercury goes into Aries, but that's, I just want to say that about Mars. I mean, that is another sign of things changing and kind of speeding up. On the 19th, Mercury goes into Aries, and that's such a nice place. Now Sag is going to start to get the sweetness coming in, because this is going to be fifth house stuff, and that is Leo's domain, fellow fire sign. This is a fire house, makes you very enthusiastic, joyful, playful like a child. Actually is a house of children, house of love and creativity. So right around the solstice, all of you Sag writers, Mercury in the 5th should be lit for your, literally, for your writing pleasures or your writing projects. But it is a house of pleasure, and the sun goes here a day later, and that this is the sun's domain. So the sun does what the sun does best in the fifth house, which is just enjoy life, and um, life is not just about work. Even if you love what you do, and some workaholics, that's why they are workaholics, is because they love what they do, but it's not the end all be all. So we have to balance things. So, what are your hobbies? These kinds of things will come into your existence. Now, you have Jupiter, the ruler of Sag, in this house already, and that will help us out. That will help us to kind of just like expand our pleasure, expand those things which bring joy to our life. If you are somebody who's looking for love, I mean, that's great. That's wonderful, because that can help you to have those things that you're looking for. And have, with Jupiter here, you might have an abundance of dates. And if you really treat them like dates, if you really say, hey, I'm going to get to know these people, that's really awesome, because you can go out and do fun things, have amazing conversations, and you don't have to make it all heavy. You don't have to get too involved too quickly. You can really get to know people. So the sun going into Aries is the astrological new year. It's the new year for humanity. That's the start of the astrological wheel. So this is a form of a new year, and people do the vision boards. I don't know why people don't encourage others to do digital vision boards more often. I mean, there are alternatives to vision boards too, that people are talking about, but I mean, just you know what? I keep talking about it. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do a digital one, and then have music, maybe some kind of a Hertz music, meaning that, it's a frequency, to attract abundance and different things. So, because then it's like a slideshow, and you can just look at it every day, instead of trying to cut things out of magazines. Like, who has magazines anyway? And how do you get the pictures that you want for the things that you want? I still don't know how people do that. They must have some amazing wealth of magazines available. But anyway, yeah, so that's happening. So yeah, if you want to symbolize this with some kind of manifestation practice, go for it. Because the very next day we have a new moon at 0 degrees, 50 minutes of Aries. So this is definitely prime time for setting intentions. And this is in the area of creativity and love. And you can set intentions for love. Some people say, well, you can't control who comes into your life. Well, you can control. It's not about controlling. It's about, declaring your desire for something. And declaring it from a place of confidence. And for creative projects, the fifth house is the business that you own. If you already have something that you wish to launch, I can't think of a better time in 2023 than this 3-week window. On the 23rd, Pluto goes into Aquarius. For Sag, this is going to be the third house. I think, this is going to be more relevant in 2024 and beyond, because it's going to stay in Aquarius now during 2023. It's just going to stay at 0 degrees. So for some of you, maybe you do have it at 0 degrees, this third house cusp, but chances are you don't, and maybe it still is going to be in your second house one more year. But I do cover Pluto in the third in that other video, as well as talk about the second house probably pretty extensively, since it's going to happen one more year. And when it happens, when Pluto, I feel like that really intensifies things, because it'll be at, when the last degree will be at 29, the critical degree, or just one before it, maybe. I don't know exactly how far back it's going, but it's not going to go too far back. And so that is the intensified history of that transit. But just very quickly, the third house is the house of the mind. And so ultimately, gaining control of your mind. You know how we talk about mind control, which is ironically um, associated with somebody programming you. This is about you programming yourself in a positive way. Pluto can be about power, so gaining mind power. I think I used to have a book called Mind Power. And Pluto is also about transformation, so this can be wonderful for people who have a lot of these conditioned beliefs that are holding them back. And trust me, you can have these for decades. It's not just when you're a teenager or in your 20s. You can have this for many years and not even really know it. And even if you personally can see that you have this programming, you can still find it hard not to operate in its confines, because intellectual understanding is not being empowered by that. You have to really transform yourself at a soul level to get there. And sometimes, because people are so indoctrinated, once they have their, one leg of their spiritual awakening, they can be like, oh man, I can't believe that I ever thought like this. And they feel like now they're out of that matrix, but they still are operating within it, because they still haven't transformed their life to the point where that is going to really make a difference. It's kind of like when you if you quit an addiction and they tell you people, places, and things, you have to stop doing that. And the person, they might know that they've quit drinking, but they haven't stopped hanging around other people that are doing it and those kinds of things. And so they're still kind of immersed in that addiction to one degree or another. So in order to truly transform, it's, there's multiple things that go into that. But the third house can really get you there, because you see you peel off the layers of the onion. That's what Pluto is so great about, diving deep into these different layers, and you see that there's more to heal, and that there's more to understand, more wisdom to acquire. So, but that's all I'm going to talk about on that. And then on the 25th, Mars goes into Cancer, and that is for Sag, that is the 8th house. Mars in the 8th house can give some kind of conflict or activity, added activity over other people's finances, okay? So I just told you about Saturn going into Pisces. So that I said that could be like that you have some kind of responsibility with parents that is added at this time for the next few years. I mean, for some people it might not be, that whole time, but at least you experience that at some point. Mars going into the 8th house could be some kind of either conflict or added activity that relates to other people's money. So that could be connected to that 4th house Saturn transit. And that can also be like if somebody is getting a loan, is the eighth house can be loans, and there is some kind of problem getting that loan. And so you're fighting with the loan company or whatever. Um, and yeah, I mean, anything that has to do with, something, if you've bought a home and, or maybe, yeah, I would say it would be more like buying a home and there's some kind of conflict with the the lender or whatever that could be happening. But the other thing too is that this is the house of metaphysics, and for some Sagittarius, you're like full steam ahead with that. Mars is that. Think of the symbol of Mars, that arrow that is trying to pierce the target, and if the target is your personal transformation. Yeah, I should put it that way. So it's not necessarily like this, organized religion, which I would attribute more to the ninth house, the mystical pursuits, but also your personal transformation. And you may be trying to become a new person in some way. This is a healing house because Pluto is one of the rulers of this house, and Mars is too. So it is a scorpionic influence for sure. And it's really about transforming yourself, but from the inside out. You know what I mean? So very, very interesting. And yeah, that's what I have for you. Oh, and I was going to say, if there's any fight with money, like inheritance, or if you're getting divorced and money, remember that you can be the bigger person. And some people are like, hell no, why should I be the bigger person? I want that. Show me the money. But Sag is, we are the sages, right? We're the spiritual teachers. And if we show up, why should we be rolling in the mud? We can show up at a higher level, and that can impress itself upon people, maybe in a very subtle way. You never know later on how many people you have influenced in your life just by being your Sag self. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I am promoting my double readings, which are my double astrology readings are deep dive readings. I do have one with the tarot called the whole enchilada. My deep dive reading is an hour of natal chart analysis and an hour of transits for a special price. And then I have the whole enchilada, which is with tarot and either the natal chart or the tarot. Transits, also a package deal. If you want more information, you can click on the link below. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.